Hi everyone, I'm Josh. Thanks for stopping by my channel yet again. Today I am back with a horror book haul. I have a bit of a small one here, so hopefully it doesn't last too long. I have a great list here. Let's start with one that I was going to put in my classic collection, but I decided not to because this one needed to be swollen a bit. And that's going to be my entire collection of Shirley Jackson, the Library of America edition. This is a gorgeous, hard-covered Library of America cover. We have our early works and our late works. Beautiful stuff. And this all in here. We have our short stories, early works, or late works, and I'm so excited to have them all here and to own, physically, like in this beautiful edition. And I'm actually hoping to get to some of these, at least one, if not two, of our older works, not even audio, I think, before the year is out, maybe for Halloween-ish. We're closer to Halloween, but yeah, this is the first one. I am so excited to get to these. If you haven't read Shirley Jackson, well, if you like horror, you absolutely should. I think The Haunting of Hill House is her best, but I know people love her other work that I have not read yet, so how can I really say that? And that is We've Always Lived in the Castle, Last Left at Lottery, and other short stories in the Lottery collection. I can't wait to read the other stories. I've also read her two memoirs, which I didn't love as much, but it's still got this sort of witty, sarcastic tone in there, if they're somewhat superficial. Not quite superficial, but guarded. Her memoirs feel guarded, unlike novels and short stories, which feel very pointed and intentional, and their ability to shock and really fuck with the mind. Very good author and a must read for horror fans. And we've got several books here before we get to a few more. Several tiny books here is what I'm trying to say. First one is The Sadist Bible by Nicole Cushing. And I believe the reason I bought this was because I was looking at a bunch of horror awards. This one is the Bram Stoker Award winning. And let's not lie. I mean, The Sadist Bible, that sounds great. Who doesn't love a good, let me phrase that. I love a good demonic narrative. Hence me wanting this little chunker. And I don't know what it's about, but it's clearly demonic, and I love demonic stories. It's my favorite kind of hell stuff. It feels like a new book too. It's clearly like a small publication based off the way it's published, but it was nice and cute because I don't think it's an audio. Might be on ebook, which I might read it that way, I don't know, but why don't we just read what it's about. What is heaven? What is hell? Ellie lived with the fear that she is an abomination. I grew up like that. An affront to God. If her Bible-built community were to ever discover Ellie's desires for the intimate touch of a woman, then her husband, pastor, friends, and neighbors would all despise and shun her. Shit, this is not demonic as I thought. This is just queer. Oh God, it's a lot sadder. But by way of the World Wide Web, Ellie finds a kindred spirit in Lori Morris, a beautiful young woman with a hideous secret. Brought together by their lust, their shame, and their shared sense of hopelessness, Ellie and Lori agree to end their lives in a single night of sex, torture, depravity, and finally suicide in a luxury hotel. But Lori has another agenda. Boy, that's really spoiling it. Where's it going? And definitely some Montero, we call me by your name vibes in here, embracing the evil, and they call you evil for being queer. Now I have a huge collection. We'll just go ahead and show you, 5 or 6 books here by just Stephen Graham Jones, Indigenous horror writer, fantastic horror writer. Does a fantastic job of really captivating the feel of a good horror flick. I think that's what he's really good at. Even if I don't love his books that much, the tone is always so perfect for a horror book. First one is one that's his most recent one, I think. One of his most recent ones. Neither of them became mannequins. Stephen Graham Jones, Mannequins Come Alive. I can't help but think about Doctor Who. What more is it about? I don't know, but this is one I don't really want to learn more about. I think we get the picture. See, if you don't know who Stephen Graham Jones is, you check him out in general, but like a horror flick, I imagine, that has to do with evil mannequins. I think it follows a group of kids, so maybe I will just speak a little bit. I'm curious. One last laugh for the summer as it winds down. One last prank just to scare a friend. Bring a mannequin into a theater, just some harmless fun, right? Until it wakes up, until it starts killing. Let's just stop there. That's very titillating. That writing style. I wonder if he wrote that, because it really sounds like him. That's sort of this simple, like in-your-face writing. Oh, I love it so much. Next, we have one of his older works, Bleed Into Me. That sounds overtly sexual. Can you really see that? How wide is it? A book of stories. I wonder how much of this is vampires. The back is sort of red, if you can see that. This is one of his earlier collections. I don't know anything about this. I've never heard anyone talk about it, but it's one of the many books that I bought as I was trying to expand my Stephen Graham Jones collection, as I feel like he doesn't get a lot of praise, but I feel like people are talking about his newer books. We should really check out his older stuff. He's a lot of old stuff that people do not talk about on BookTube. I'm confident it'll be fantastic. It's nice, it's short. I may actually do this with my eyes, something I don't usually do, but I think it might make for a good thrill. Next, we have one that is a growing up Dead in Texas, a novel by Stephen Graham Jones. I actually think this is a zombie story, that much I do know. And he had a book that was about werewolves. It was one of his newer ones, not like as new, but the book was a book that just followed a family that was werewolves, and the use of family dynamic and incorporating it into the old classic werewolf story made it just an extra level of greatness. And I don't think that was as overtly horrific in my opinion, so I wonder if this will be as well. But growing up dead in Texas, I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure zombies. Now let's just leave this one top thing here. It was a fire that couldn't be seen for miles, a fire that split the community, a fire that turned families on each other, a fire it's still hard to get straight answers about. A quarter of a century later, someone held a match to Greenwood, Texas cotton. That told me nothing. It makes me think maybe it's not about zombies. Well, you know what? I'm giving you the best I can without spoiling it for either of us. Next, we have another short story collection. I think one of his more median publications. That is, oh God, can I read this? Let me read this side. The Ones That Got Away. The Ones That Got Away by Stephen Graham Jones. Another collection. This is definitely one of the newer ones based on the publication style. A little bit thicker. Nice, actually really nice hardback. I think I bought this new, but I'm excited for this. Not much you can say about a short story collection with the fact that it's Stephen Graham Jones. I read his other short story collections. I think his newest one, When All the People's Lights Have Gone Off. I love that one. That was actually a solid collection. I love the tone of his works. So good, so good. And I think he always has the same narrator too. Have a great like Southern kind of, just a really heavy voice. Great for his work. And then finally, one last work by Stephen Graham Jones, and I do think this is actually a thriller or mystery, maybe a bit of both, not exactly horror. Now, I have a couple thrillers here that I'm counting as horror. Spoilers for that. The Beautiful Sinners by Stephen Graham Jones, a novel. Okay, let's see what this is about. Deputy Sheriff Jim Doe plunges into a renegade manhunt after the town's sheriff is gunned down. But unbeknownst to him, the suspect, an American Indian, holds chilling connections to the disappearance of Doe's sister years before. And the closer Doe gets to the fugitive's trail, the more he realizes that his own involvement in the case is hardly coincidental. A descendant of the Blackfeet Nation himself, Doe keeps getting mistaken for the killers he's chasing. And when the FBI's finest 3 profiles descend on the case, Doe suspects the hunt has only just begun. He keeps going on, but I'll stop there. It's intriguing, actually. I think it'll be good. It's my first time exploring Graham's non-strictly horror works. Now, moving on from Graham and getting closer to the close, we have another collection by the lovely Ellen Datlow. Poe, 19 Tales inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. Ellen Datlow is someone I've hauled multiple times now on this channel, and I've now read several works by her. Very excited for that. I mean to say, like a couple years ago, a year and a half maybe, back in 2019, I realized, I say I'm a horror fan, but then all I read in horror is Stephen King. Not only am I depriving myself, like I'm not really reading horror, so I decided to seek out some horror, and I decided to find some anthologies, and one of her newer works in 2018, it won the Bram Stoker Award, and I really liked it, and then I read more of hers. It's not always, like a solid 5-star, but there's always something in her collections that I like, and sometimes they're like really, really good. So I love Ellen Datlow. I haven't read Edgar Allan Poe, so I know I'm a bit of a fake, but I know enough about him to know that his tone is something I'll probably like. Now we have a classic-ish horror book here, and that is Clive Barker's Weave World, a novel. And this is a horror novel. I know Barker is the author of the Hellraiser book. I'm a huge fan of that. I've already mentioned earlier in this that I am a huge fan of the demonic horror, and so I don't know how much of this is that. I hope it is. I watched his Hulu adaptation of his other series, The Book of Blood or something. It was okay. I like the tone, but this had a lot of positive reviews, so I'm hoping it'll be good. It's like an epic horror fantasy, and that's something I really like from King, is that it was horror and also fantasy, the two things I really liked intersecting. And also because I'm hoping it's demonic. Let's just see. Just a quick glimpse. Here is storytelling on a grand scale, the stuff of which a classic is made. Weave World begins with a rug, a wondrous, magnificent rug, into which a world has been woven. It is the world of the seer kind, a people more ancient than man, who possesses raptures, the power to make magic. They were hunted down by an unspeakable horror known as the Scourge, and, threatened by their annihilation, they worked their strongest raptures to weave themselves and their culture into a rug for safekeeping. Since then, the rug has been guarded by human caretakers. The last of the caretakers have just died. I'm going to stop there. This feels like less horror than more fantasy, but maybe there is horror. It's just not obvious in the synopsis. I'm a little saddened by it not being more strictly horror, but you know what? If it just doesn't seem to be strictly horror, it's gonna work as a great transition as we get into the more thriller recommendations, or sorry, not recommendations, hauls here. Final Girls, a novel by Riley Sager. I read his other work, that House one, you know, every Lock If You Know That's Not Right. I haven't read that one. His newest one that's like a rip-off, well, not a rip-off, and it's analogous to Shirley Jackson's Haunting of Hill House. But I liked it, but it didn't. I get how it could be horrific to some people. From reading like actual horror, it's an imitation. Like it's cheap imitation. Like it's still fun, especially with homage, and it works great as a thriller. But is it a horror book? Not to me. Not to my opinion. I mean, you're welcome to call it that. To each their own. But still, I'm psyched. I'm hoping this might maybe be a bit more like that. You know, Stephen Graham Jones has a book called The Last Final Girls, and that was a fantastic book. I didn't love it, but I still really liked it. I appreciated the fact that it was an homage to, you know, the final girl trope, and it was told like a horror flick movie. I need to read it again, honestly, to really appreciate it. And now on to One by One by Ruth Ware. I've heard mixed things about this, but you know, I hear it's a retelling of an Agatha Christie book. I haven't read Agatha Christie, but I enjoy the ride, and even if it's predictable, which is what I've heard by some people, I'm okay with that. I don't need non-predictability. I do appreciate it, but if it's a solid ride, solid story, I may not love it as much if it's predictable, but I'll still like it. I think that's everything. Yeah, that's everything. Hopefully this video works, from the overheating in the sun to the wind blowing in the air. Let me know if you're going to read any of these, and as always, have a great day and be safe. Bye, everyone.